Hello and welcome to episode 73 of Loaded Sport. We've had 72 episodes so far, and finally we've figured it out, lads. We are all on the screen at the same time.
Fuck you!
No more need to mess about and talk to try and get on, or awkward cuts between people laughing in amongst controversy.
Look at Aggy, he's positively beside himself. Look at his face.
Calm
down, man. Calm down.
So now we have tested this, and if this comes out tomorrow and it is just one person on the screen, this means nothing. But we did test it, me and Sam, last week, once we thought we'd finally cracked it. So for once, finally, well and truly, we're going to have to behave for the next hour to an hour and a half, and I'm not quite sure how we will cope. The body parts will have to stay within our clothes. The pictures will have to remain off screen. Let's see who will crack first. But anyway, you can see who's here, but what would it be if we didn't introduce everybody? So, Kemp, you're top left on my screen, mate, and hopefully to everyone else as well. Talk us through that lovely shade of pink you're wearing this evening and how your week's been so far.
Top right on mine, buddy. Top right. But yeah, doing well, mate. Doing well, thank you. Not bad at all. It's been a humongous week. It really, really has. And that'll be a bit more context to that in a few weeks' time. But it's just been so busy. I've been so fucking rammed. Work's been falling on top of me everywhere. But you know what? Oh, it's Thursday night. It's nearly the weekend. We're back on with the boys. We're all on screen. And this obviously is the Sheffield United away kit from when we first got promoted into the Premier League, I think 2019-20, and finished as well as we did. I believe it was 9th place that season, and I don't think I'll ever see it as good as that. But there you go. How are you, mate? You okay?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I think that season you mentioned the 9th place, which in context or just top line is great, but I think you're on track for some Champions League football at one point until lockdown hit, weren't you? But
we were all starting to get very excited / very scared, put it that way.
Yeah, I can imagine. But to answer your last question, mate, I'm all right, very much like yourself. It's been a very busy week, work-wise and personal-wise. It's Thursday night. We've hit that checkpoint we've hit record, so we know the weekend's on the horizon. So I'm looking forward to this next hour or so. Hearing your questions, hearing the answers, hearing what ridiculous stats that Aggy's got prepared to justify his picks. He's found the right destination, but he's finding the fucking loopiest ways of getting there. But anyway, we'll get to that later on, I'm sure. Speaking of Aggy, you look like you were in a bit of a McLaren orange tonight. Have we potentially got a Formula One related question on the horizon? But we'll get to that, obviously. But how's your week been, mate?
And my week's been pretty much like your guys, to be fair, quite chaotic. But thankfully, we're reaching the back end of it now, and we can get looking forward to the weekend. I've got this weekend off from work. We'll talk more about that later. So yeah, all been pretty busy this week, but yeah, good to be back on Loaded Sport podcast and with us all on view as well.
Yeah, I'm like Kemp. I'm excited / scared because I'm not quite sure. My money is all on Sam. I've put everything I've got to my name on Sam being the first one to expose body parts or inappropriate pictures. But speaking of the man, Sam, I've got 3 questions for you, mate. First of all, how are you? Second of all, how's your week been? And third of all, do you think you can keep those body parts and pictures contained for the next 60 to 90 minutes?
To answer them from reverse order, absolutely not. It's been okay, not good, not bad, and yeah, I'm all right, mate. It's as we say, it's Thursday. It's nearly the weekend, so I'm ready to get discussing some sporting topics.
Well, I've spun the wheel, mate, and last week you were the first person to kick us off in the new era. They're doing improved Loaded Sport, and you're looking forward to getting stuck into it. Landed on you first again, mate. So kick us off.
My question for this new topic that we are about to discuss is: if you could change or invent one rule in football, what would it be? Now, I'll go first, and mine would be to introduce a salary cap to the Premier League. I don't know how you boys feel about this. I've not sat there and I've not got a load of stats written down for this one. I wanted mine to be a bit more of a discussion. So the gap between your Lutons and your Man City is probably it's never been as big as the gap between the poorest team and the richest team in the Premier League. So I think a salary cap would be a great idea to enhance competition, to keep things fair. And yeah, that's mine. So I'm just going to set the ball rolling with that, and I'm going to come to Kemp. You've unmuted your mic, Skin. Do you have anything to add on the topic?
Yeah, just you mentioned the salary cap. obviously we watch a lot of NFL and that has the salary cap and works quite well in terms of how they try to even the playing field. Salary caps are in place, so not one team can just go and buy the best players, whether through trades or whatever. Obviously, the draft works in a reverse order sense, so in theory, the worst teams from the previous year get priority picks when it comes to the players coming out of college. Obviously, we don't have the benefit of that in football/soccer, and certainly not in the Premier League. Players sign from clubs all over the world at any point in their career and come through academies. So what kind of salary cap do you think is realistic? Because you mentioned there the gap between Man City and Luton. If we're saying that we're going to say whatever Luton's max spend is, that's the salary cap to make sure it's fair, that is then obviously a massive drop from the majority of other clubs in the league to come down to. So as sort of a level, where do you think that salary cap should or would come in?
I probably would be looking at around the 150 to 200 grand mark. I think.
Oh, so you're talking purely on wage spend?
Salary, yeah, purely a salary cap. I'm not sure I'd feel about a spending cap on players. I think.
I thought you just meant across the board.
For the record, that's what I thought you meant as well.
Right, fair enough. No, an actual salary.
I thought you meant like wage bill. So like Man United's wage bill.
I don't mean transfer fees. I don't mean transfer fees at all. I just mean purely players' wages.
So I think Dawson's question there is that if let's say, for example, all of Luton's players collectively as a group in their entire squad, their registered squad, all of their contracts, all of their salaries per week come up to, let's say, $1 million, for example, right? And Man City's current squad, who spend the most, their current salary per week comes up to $6 million. What do we do? Where do we draw the line? What should the cap be to make sure that Luton have still not got that massive unfair advantage that they've got now, but City don't have to literally cull off their team to make the salary cap requirements? I think that's what you were getting at, Dawson. I'm not quite sure.
No. I mean, at that level there, Sam mentioned sort of 150 to 200 grand a week, which then kind of links into what you said there. So let's say, for example, next season, it's a 200 grand a week cap. Luton, in theory, aren't in a position to still be able to afford that. So they're still going to be that gap there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it is, and again, that's why it is such an interesting question, because I don't know how it would personally be enforced myself. I don't know whether it would be sharing rights between the Sky money a bit more evenly. And then again, I know you get your bigger teams turn around saying the majority of the reason people are buying Sky is for them and it's their fan base. So I get that there's an argument for that, but I think to try and destabilise this monopoly of money on the league, I think that for me would be probably the best idea in terms of some kind of cap. But I wouldn't have a clue. I'm not going to lie, I wouldn't have a clue on how to actually enforce that, other than just sharing the rights between the team a little bit more evenly.
I think for me, that's the best way to do it would be literally that wage spend. So your wage bill per week, it'll go from top of the Premier League to bottom. Man City will spend about £5.5–6 million a week on their wages. Luton will probably spend about 750k or $1 million or something like that. And I think the way to do it is by bringing City down, maybe year on year, saying the maximum amount of wage bill you can spend per week. This season is $5.5 million. Next season it's 5.25. Next season it's 5. Next season it's 4.75. And get down to a point where the maximum wage bill you can spend on players gets to 3.5–4 million or something like that. And then as it goes on, as the seasons go on, the salary cap can increase like it does in the NFL, right? And it will do because of inflation and things that are out of sporting control. I think the biggest thing and the biggest criticism, and maybe the reason that it's not done, is that it will mean that when the Italian league gets off its arse, when the Spanish league gets off its arse in terms of finances, there is a huge chance that top Premier League clubs will miss out on the big players, because Real Madrid will be able to say, well, we can spend whatever and you can't because you've got your salary cap. So I think that's what's going to put people off doing it in the Premier League as a club, because you're not going to get the big players, therefore you're not going to get as much in right fees, therefore you're not going to get as much in merchandise. And as we know, football's all about money. So I agree, Sam. As a team that's rock bottom of the Premier League right now because we can't compete on spending, I completely agree with everything that you're saying. But I think, in theory, it's a bit utopian. And it's
I agree.
I would love for that to come in. I really would, and I agree with you.
I agree with you.
I'd just like to get Aggy's thoughts on this very quickly, because I know we're talking about the Premier League, but obviously he's a Chesterfield fan. in the National League, and they are benefiting from, at the moment, from the investment that has gone into their squad. And obviously clubs at that level are, much more sort of concerned with what they spend or what they have to spend. So, Aggy, supporting a team that are in a league where they're currently benefiting from having that extra money to spend and being able to bring in, a higher caliber manager, coaching team, supporting staff, players on the field as well. What do you think about that? Because Kemp's mentioned there being a sort of at the bottom of that and wanting to see that gap close, whereas you're at the other end of that in your league because you're benefiting from having that extra money. What are your thoughts on that?
I'd be all for a salary cap, even if it is something that takes place in the National League. But I do think it's something that if you're going to implement in the Premier League, it's going to eventually have to fall all the way down. So go down the Championship, League One, League Two, and obviously so on and so forth. I do agree with Kemp's point, though, and it's something that I were thinking about while you guys were chatting about it, that eventually it's just going to push some of the bigger named players out of the Premier League and put people off, which will then lose the Premier League standard. And then, of course, the rights that the teams will get paid for, Sky, BT, etc., or whatever they're known as now, I think that will really put players off from joining, and then it'll devalue the Premier League itself. So it's something that would really need to be thought through and on point to be able to be a success. And for clubs like Sheffield United, Luton, the sides towards the bottom that can't compete on spending, it'd be, a godsend. But then you've got to look at the sides like Man City that would have to take a bit of a hit on it. And you think of some of those players there. I mean, Man City have probably got one or two players that just together make up more than Sheffield United's entire wage budget. That's how big it is, and that's how big the difference is going to have to be. So, yeah, I agree with Kemp's point that it's going to put people off the Premier League and might have that sort of negative impact.
But do you not think, though, that making the product better, as in more competitive, more entertaining, and more of a chat every game, you're not knowing as so much? Man City v Burnley or Man City v Sheffield United at minute is pretty much a foregone conclusion, and it maybe wouldn't be the case if there was some kind of structure in wages in place. Do you not think we'd profit that way?
I think within England, we would. I think within England, people would probably look at it and think, yeah, but you're looking at international viewers now. They're not going to be watching your TNT or your Sky to be able to watch these teams unless you've got an Erling Haaland, a Kevin De Bruyne, and Mo Salah playing within the Premier League. Man City, Liverpool would probably lose some of that value if those three players aren't playing. And whilst we'd look at it as neutrals, think, this could be a big game for the Premier League title, looking at it from, your France, Italy, Spain, they're not going to look at it from the same aspect, and it's going to lose a lot of international viewers.
I completely agree. And it's not just international viewers, but it'll be social media as well. The social media engagement of the Premier League will just fall off a cliff because it's Haaland, it's all these massive name players, it's Salah and all that. If there was a salary cap introduced, these massive stars, some of them would still come to the Premier League and teams would have to work that out, but a lot of them wouldn't. And therefore, the attention that the Premier League gets from maybe a younger fan base on social media, that they're not really fans of football teams, they're fans of Haaland, they're fans of Salah, they're fans of these big name players. And if we've not got that, that will in turn have a negative effect on how many people watch the Premier League. For us, football fans in England, fans that, Haaland's an amazing player, but couldn't really give two shits because I'm a Sheffield United fan and I want us to do well. For us, it'd be ideal, it'd be utopia. But for us, we don't, the social media clicks, the TV rights deals, they're really what grease the Premier League teams' pockets. So it's the trade-off, innit? They traded off the interest of fans a long, long time ago. And if they did something like this, it'd be, putting it back in the fans' hands, and it just doesn't seem like that's something they'd want to do.
Yeah, no, appreciate that, boys. Thank you very much for your opinions. I did want to open up into a bit of a discussion. I think that was quite interesting to hear all your thoughts there. Obviously back to the initial question. If you could change one rule or invent a rule in football, what would it be? I'm going to start with you, Kemp. What rule would your be, mate?
Yeah, so this season so far, and to be fair, every season ever since the rule was invented, probably 100 years ago, offsides, they've always been an issue. They've always been a problem and a controversy. At the minute, we're waiting. It seems like half an hour at times to find out what an offside decision is at the moment, right? So for me, I would implement a rule where not only would I bring in semi-automatic VAR, which we've talked about before, but the offside player would need to be offside by a full body's length in terms of, so they're the sort of far back part of their body, let's say it's their back foot, okay, that has to be offside. That has to be in front of the player that's playing them offside. Does that make sense?
So the whole player has to be offside.
The whole player has to be offside.
I think you're looking at daylight there, aren't you? Daylight between the
daylight
heel.
rule. The daylight rule is absolutely right. So if your back heel is past the defending player's, front hand or front heel or front toe or whatever, then you'd be offside. But apart from that you're onside. We don't see any advantage to the front man, or player. We don't see any advantage to the attacking team. You know, the offsides is just such a it's such a stop-start thing these days because of the lack of ability to use the technology that we've got. So for me, it'd be clear daylight, the entire player's body, all the anatomy would have to be offside, and there would be semi-automatic VAR to bring that in to make sure that that's enforced. What are our thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Any pitfalls to that?
A little bit. So to be honest, this was a similar answer to the question that I brought up, and I ended up changing it to the salary cap one. And my initial thought was to do it by feet. Just by feet, so and not what you're saying. So the heel, it's just literally if your toe's offside with the defender's toe, if you're out of line, you're offside. It doesn't matter if your shoulders, you lean forward, your head's offside. Just look at the feet. If the feet is a clear line, you're offside. My only issue with your way of doing it is, and this is going to sound a bit fruity and a bit weird, but you know, you've got different. I mean, look at someone like Aggy. He's got the fucking arse like Kim Kardashian. You've got players who've got different body shapes, and you're all of a sudden, I think you're getting into a dicey position with your lines again, and I think you're going to need to put some kind of line. And just thingy offside, automated offside is 100% the way to go. That is the way to go. But I think if you're measuring the back of somebody, you've then got to try and create a bit of a line between where that back is. And is his back sticking a bit further back than his heel? You know what I mean? Is his head leaning back or is he leaning forward? So I think for me, if you just do it by foot, I think it's quite kind of black and white. But I do get what you're saying, but I do think it would also introduce the line situation again.
Yeah, I guess so, and I do sort of see what you're saying. And to be fair, I wouldn't mind your version of events either. I really wouldn't mind that. That'd be absolutely fine with me. I think that the reason I say the full body is just because if you've got somebody sprinting forward and, you know, the defending player's kind of leaning back for whatever reason, he's off balance or whatever it might be, I just think it's fair. I just think it's in the interest of fairness that if any part of your body overlaps with the player next to you, then I think that is the fairest, honestly possible way of doing it. I know the thing is with feet, you're going to be measuring toes, and you're going to be seeing whose toes. Fuck that cunt. You're going to be measuring like whose toe is in front of which toe. That's the problem. And
that's it. Yeah,
and then you're going to get lines maybe even with that. So the semi-automatic VAR is a really, really important part of it because, in my opinion, and I might be wrong, people who understand the technology better than me might get it better, but it's going to be quite obvious to see, right, okay, motion capture, which part, does any part of that player overlap with that player? And there'll be like a red hotspot maybe if a player does overlap. And then if not, there'll be no hotspot and then it'll be offside. So for me, I just think it would be easier to implement with the technology.
Like a Venn diagram.
Exactly that. I can put it better myself, a walking thesaurus. So yeah, that's the way that I would do it. And again, I think the semi-automatic VAR is crucial to that because then you start having referees start measuring arses, and Ag's fuming enough at referees and officials as it is. We don't want him getting tape measure out on his arse. So,
his rule is to get rid of referees. Just a little spoiler alert.
No,
there you go. That's fine.
Yeah, no, that's fair, mate. It is a good one, to be fair. And as I say, it was one that I did think about having something similar myself. Skin, we'll go to you next, mate.
Coming to me, mate. So this is something that is highlighted. It's only really something I've took notice of in the last sort of 18 months or so for reasons we'll get into. But also there was something that was highlighted on a mainstream level as well. And that is the current structure of the National League leading into League Two. So currently in League Two, 3 teams get automatically promoted, with a 4th team going up through the playoffs, and 2 teams get relegated. So 4 teams go up, 3 of them automatically, and 2 teams get relegated. In the National League, 1 team goes up automatically via being champions, and then 1 team goes up through the playoffs, of which 6 teams go into that playoffs, and then 4 teams are relegated. And it was something that was highlighted last season by Ryan Reynolds. Aggy, I know you've had a lot to say about your hatred of Wrexham all of a sudden getting mainstream attention and televised games and all the things like that. But following that absolute classic game against Notts County late on in the season, which was a real sort of title contender, he highlighted post-match the fact that it's quite unfair on Notts County that they've had this incredible season. They're pushing 100 points at that point, obviously got there in the end, and that they wouldn't be going up automatically. Notts County in the end scraping past in the playoff final to go up after beating Chesterfield on penalties. So it's quite right Because if 4 teams are going up in League Two, League One, 3 teams go up, 2 in the champion, 2 automatically, 1 in the playoffs. In the Championship, 3 teams go up, 2 automatically, 1 in the playoffs. Why is League Two any different? Why are 4 teams coming down from League One, 4 teams going up from League Two, but then you've got 2 teams going down into non-league, and then 1 team only going up in the National League? It just seems unfair, and it seems like a bit of gatekeeping. Now, the biggest issue is the fact that you would assume that the league clubs would have to vote on this for this to pass, and why would they vote for an extra chance of them going into non-league football? That's the problem. But for me, there is a serious issue with gatekeeping here, because why are 4 teams going up from League Two, but then only 1 coming up and only 2 going down? That doesn't make sense. So for me, it would be increasing, it would be changing the system from League One to League Two. Only 2 going up automatically, 1 going up through the playoffs, same as League One, same as the Championship, and then 3 go down in relegation, again, like the Premier League, like the Championship, and so on and so forth. And then 2 going up automatically from the National League, 1 being champions, 1 being runners-up, and then 1 going up through the playoffs in the same system that there is further up the league. Like I said, you obviously know the reason is it's a bit of greed and everything else, and I don't know how long that system's been in place, but only really sort of took notice of it through watching Chesterfield now and going to a lot of games, obviously tracking their promotion chances last season. And again, it's been highlighted with that race between Wrexham and Notts County. But for me, it's just a bit of greed and a bit of gatekeeping from the clubs higher up. So I don't see it ever changing. But again, if it's down to me and I had that power, that would be the rule that I'd change.
I'm definitely not saying that I'm not saying it's not about greed from the clubs higher up. I'm not saying that at all. But I think, and I might be wrong, and you feel free to correct me, I think the issue, and for the record, I agree with you, is below the National League. I think that's the problem, because there's a National League North and there's a National League South, right? Yeah. So 4 relegation spots in the National League means that in theory 2 teams will go into the North, 2 teams will go into the South, right? So at that point, you need 4 relegation spots in the National League.
That's fine, and I'm fine with that for that reason, because the pyramid is 1 team, 1 team, 1 team, 1 team, split 2 teams on a level, and I completely understand that the pyramid side of that. But for me, there's no reason why 3 shouldn't go down from League Two and 3 go up from National League. It's that part of the pyramid that I don't agree with them change.
And I think if your maths is right, and I'm sure it is, that's completely feasible to do, and I don't understand why they wouldn't do it. I just think that the regional things start getting a little bit dicey, and I think that's where maybe there's a bit of confusion. But for the record, I completely agree with you. I don't understand the problem of having 3 promotions and 3 relegations from the Premier League all the way down to League Two, and then 3 promotions in the National League and 4 relegations in the National League. I'm not quite sure what the problem would be with that, because then you could still have 2 promotions from the North, 2 promotions of the South, and the rest of the pyramid all the way down to step 11, which is literally the lowest professional step or a semi-professional step. I don't understand why they then can't keep the same as they're doing now.
Yeah,
I don't get it, and I completely agree with you.
Yeah, I think you'd probably be right there, Kemp. I think it could be to do with the actual lower side of it. Like hypothetically, what would they do if 4 northern teams got relegated one year?
Well, to be fair, they deal with that anyway. So they deal with that anyway. So they split it from north and south, right? But what they do, and I don't quite know how they work out the geographical locations, but if there's a team who are playing the south and then a team gets relegated from the National League into the National League regionals, so the north or the south, that team that's most northerly in the south moves into the north. I think that's what happens. Aggy, your team plays in that sort of area, so you'll know better than anybody. But that's a non-issue anyway. So I don't understand. Again, there's probably a reason, but for the life of me, I don't know what it is. So if anybody is listening to the podcast,
I'm fine with.
If anybody is listening to the podcast and understands why, then please let us know. But for us, it's why can't it be 3 and 3 all the way down to the National League and then 3 and 4?
Yeah, once that pyramid becomes different divisions at the same level, fine. But National League up, there's no Premier League 1 and 2 or Championship. It's just one division. But Aggy, go on, sorry, mate, with the point you were going to make.
No, you're just backing it up. That if a Southern team gets relegated out of the National League, and obviously it means the National League South would be overcrowded. The most northern team will then move up to the National League North just to even it out a little bit. I completely agree. I don't understand why there can't be 3 up, 3 down across the board. from the Premier League all the way down to the National League. It's always blown my mind how League One has 4 teams going down, yet everyone else has 3, and obviously League Two then has 2. It just doesn't make sense to me.
No.
But yeah, again, like you say, it's got to go to a vote, and not many teams are going to turn around and say, yeah, we'll vote for an extra relegation spot in our division, will they?
It'd be interesting, wouldn't it? It'd be very interesting to see. Let's play hypothetically, if Wrexham were to finish 22nd this year, and then they was put to a league vote to say, are you wanting to go ahead with it? I know they've been massively vocal. Would they stick to what they've said and vote for it, or would they think, hang on a minute, we'd have been out at league if 4 places?
But I also don't quite understand the argument for, well, they won't vote for it because there's an extra relegation spot. Because let's say you open the vote up to National League, League Two, and League One, because that's the 3 divisions that it would affect.
I think it's the 92 league clubs that would vote for a change to their structure, because non-league is
it won't be Premier League, though, will it? But it won't be Premier League.
No, it'd be the AFL. So surely that's where my gatekeeping comment came in.
Yeah, but surely the Championship. I mean, the clubs in the Championship, maybe apart from the bottom 3 or the bottom 4 or whatever it might be, the kind of teams towards the bottom or are likely to get relegated, surely they're not going to have a dog in the fight. So they'll be like, well, we want, in the interest of fairness, we'd like it to be 3 and 3. League One, yeah, they're going to vote against it because there's 4 relegations. But League Two, they vote again. I don't know. They might.
Wouldn't League One vote for it?
I think League One would vote for it. Yeah, I think they would.
Yeah. Because they would. I'm confused myself, because then there's 3 relegations, so there's less chance of them going down. But then League Two, they might also vote for it, because there's only 3 promotions. But then I suppose there's 3 relegations as well, isn't there? So
they're losing out at that point.
It's League Two that's the problem, isn't it? The National League would vote for it, because obviously they'd be. They'd be 3
National League want it, don't they?
Yeah, of course, yeah. So I don't know. It'd be very interesting to see how the vote would land, because it would be Championship down to National League, I would assume.
Yeah.
That's
what I'd change anyway.
Yeah, very, very good point, mate. Very good point. Finally, we'll go with Aggy. What you got for us, mate?
Well, being the dinosaur that I am, I would go with the Champions League. I feel that with it being the Champions League, it should be solely for champions and not for teams that finish 3rd or 4th in their respective divisions. I feel that teams that do finish top of, obviously the Premier League, Serie A, La Liga, etc., they're the front runners in these competitions anyway. But I think finishing 4th place in the Premier League and winning the Champions League and getting into the Champions League, is just kind of defeating the object of the Champions League. It's supposed to be the best that Europe's got to offer, isn't it? And I think if you only finish in 3rd and 4th place, you're not the best. So, yeah, for me, it's the champions of each division goes into the Champions League, not 1st to 4th and whatever else.
So what we're looking at... Oh, go on, Kemp.
I was going to say you're a fucking dinosaur, mate, but I agree with you completely.
Would you... So in terms of formats, currently, it's due to change from next season, I believe. So in terms of how many countries / clubs, what would you do? Would it just be the top 5 or 6 countries? Your England, Germany, Italy, France, Spain.
It'd have to be about 32 countries, wouldn't it?
No,
32
countries.
Spread it out across Europe.
Across Europe.
Northern Ireland, Wales, Scotland. Pretty much everywhere. So yeah,
I'd spread it out across Europe myself. I wouldn't say you've got to limit it just to the 6 big countries, because then it's kind of defeating, not allowing other opportunities for other countries, is it? But I'd say, you spread it out to 32 different nations. The champions of each of those divisions, the top divisions in those countries, will make it through to the Champions League. But you do it based upon, the league statute, don't you? You go for the top 32 leagues in Europe and go through that perspective.
So it's interesting that you say that, Aggie, because I am literally on the UEFA website now, and it says, originally composed of 14 members, it now comprises 32 member leagues. That's perfect. There's 32 leagues in UEFA, right? So why can't those 32 leagues be split into however many groups?
8 groups. 8 groups of 4, like it is now.
8 groups of 4 into knockouts and go from there. What's the problem with that? We know what the problem with that is that Man United, Liverpool, and whoever else will get into it. Gatekeeping again. It's all about money. But for me, in terms of a sort of spectator thing, I mean, how good would that be? If you win, it's like the old Cup Winners' Cup, right? If you win your respective league, you all the best of the best go against each other. And that's what we all want to see, surely. I don't see anybody disagreeing with that, apart from the people whose pockets are being lined.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I particularly. I'm going to be the villain here. I think. I'm not sure. I want to see it. I'm not sure. I want to see it. What I'm probably about to say is a little bit. You could probably poke holes in my theory, but I think there'd be just so many dead rubber games. I think the champions of Northern Ireland, the champions of Wales, champions of Republic. Who the fuck wants to see them besides the fucking locals? I mean, come on. Now, again, it's going to be all down to the money again. But I'd much rather watch a Tottenham versus Seville than the fucking the champions of Northern Ireland against the champions of Wales or the champions of fucking Andorra, Estonia, or someone like that. You know what I mean? I'd much rather see a Spurs, Seville, or Lyon, or someone like that. And that's just the sad truth. It's just entertainment, and I know definitely which one I'd rather see.
To be fair, you make a really good point, and I think there might be a market perhaps to. I don't know. I think it'd be difficult in terms of fixture congestion, wouldn't it? But maybe the format of the Champions League now, and then maybe bring back the Cup Winners' Cup instead of the Europa Conference League. To do Ags format maybe or something like that, and just have straight knockout games. So I wouldn't mind seeing Ags format, but Sam, to be fair, it's a really good point you've raised, and I do completely agree with you there. So I'm a bit torn.
Nice one, brother.
So what do you think then, Aggy? Sorry, just very quickly. So based on that, Sam makes a fair point. Would you rather see the new Saints versus fucking Galway United? I don't know. Or would you rather watch
Drogheda?
Yeah, Drogheda. Or would you rather watch Man U against Barcelona? Or do you think your actual rule is to change the name of the competition that is currently known as the Champions League?
I think you're always going to pick Man U against Barcelona as opposed to Drogheda against Galway, aren't you? Let's be fair. But I think it just defeats the object of it being the Champions League, doesn't it? You're supposed to have. I know you have like the best players out there at the moment, and just
to let you know, Drogheda and Galway would be domestic, so your point's not valid there.
Are they Northern Ireland or Republic?
Ooh, I don't know.
Republic, surely Galway, right? Galway, but we're
Galway will be. I'm not sure with Drogheda. Yeah, they definitely are, aren't they? Yeah, Republic. Yeah, definitely.
The domestic, of course they are, mate. Come on.
Yeah, Drogheda versus Belfast.
Belfast City. Yeah.
But you talk about some of those.
I think what you're advocating for
scrapping like full.
It's just a name change, isn't it? It's just a name change. You want it changed at European Cup.
I want it to be Champions League, like actual champions in
there. He's probably
he wants the Champions League by its very definition.
It's a romantic concept, isn't it? It's a lovely idea, but like when you actually think of the nitty gritty, and you're thinking, hang on a minute, like you say, I'd rather watch United in fourth place against Barca, who's finished second. I'd rather watch that fixture than, as you say, Galway against fucking Gap Connors Key or something like that. So yeah, that's
ask Google, all right.
What? Gap Connors Key? Oh, mate, they're legends. Oh, I love them.
Who the fuck are they?
Welsh.
Yeah. Are they?
Yeah, I've had my hands in my pockets all podcasts. No
offense to any Gap Connors Keys fans out there.
Used to call them Gap Connors Quay welfare. Just trying to be quite witty. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I like that a lot.
It seems like I've found my shirt for next week, so I'll try and get hold of that over the next 7 days. But just to give Aggie some credit to close off before we move on to the next question, I think out of all those 4 potential rule changes, his is most likely to happen, if any were to happen. So
I disagree. I think yours is.
I think yours is.
I think yours is.
I think there's too much greed in gamekeeping.
No.
There's zero chance what Aggie happens.
There is so much more money to be made in what Aggie said, in like not doing what Aggie said, than not doing what you said.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So much more.
Mine's just a pipe dream.
Fair enough. But anyway, Sam, great question. Make some really good discussion there. I'm looking forward to what you bring next week, and hopefully the wheel won't spit you out first, so you can sit back on it for a little bit while the rest of us chat about ours. But anyway, next up, Mr. Aggy Marsden.
Right, my question, and it was on time this week as well. My question is the biggest underdog story in sport, whether that's per person or as a team. And Skin, I'll start with you.
Right, well, I don't particularly want to talk about this, so I'll make it quick. Kemp, you get yourself comfy and happy, mate, because I'm sure you're going to very much enjoy what I speak about over the next couple of minutes or so. I'm going to take you back to February 3rd, 2008, lads. I was he's going. Do I wait? I don't know what to do. He should be here for this. He's going to have to watch it back. February 3rd, 2008. I was a young lad that had recently, I was in college. At the time, I was doing an IT course. I was in my second year of college. And I had a fleeting like of the National Football League for a couple of years at that point, but it was just sort of bits and bobs, nothing too serious. However, as that season had progressed, you were seeing more and more, as a team, the New England Patriots were on course to become the first ever team in a 16-game regular season to go fully unbeaten and go on to win the Super Bowl. And on that February 3rd, 2008, that's where he went. There we go. On that February 3rd, 2008, the New England Patriots, 16-0 in the regular season, had won both of their playoff games, were heading to Arizona to take on the New York Giants, who had gone 10-6 and were the 5th seed in the NFC of that year. No wildcard team at that point in the history of the National Football League had gone on to win the Super Bowl. New England Patriots were probably at that point the most dominant team that we'd seen in the modern era and potentially ever, again, having gone 16-0. And all signs and all predictions had the New England Patriots becoming that first team in a 16-game regular season to go undefeated and lift the Super Bowl. Me buying into the hype and the build-up to that game, stopped up, even though I had college that Monday morning, stayed up for my first ever Super Bowl, and I was fully bought into the hype of the New England Patriots and, of course, Tom Brady and the enigma that he was and that he was sold as. With 2.5 minutes left in that game, New England Patriots were winning. It was a low-scoring game. 14-10 was the score. And the Giants were playing relatively well and keeping a phenomenal Patriots offense to a relatively low score. With about 2.5 minutes left, Eli Manning pulled out what to this day, how many years later? 15 years later, which is mental to say out loud, but 15 years later is still the single best play I have seen in the National Football League since going back and watching plays before that. The best play, where he somehow managed to avoid sack on about 3 or 4 different times. He was stood here and his shirt was about back in the dressing room how much it was being pulled, and he threw a ball 30-40 yards downfield, and David Tyree somehow, against a legendary Patriots defensive back, Rodney Harrison, managed to hold the ball against his helmet, bring it to the floor and avoid it touching the ground, and what is a play now coined as the helmet catch. A couple of plays later, Eli Manning would throw a touchdown pass into the far left corner of the end zone to Plexico Burress, a play that had since come out in the coverage after that they had been practicing pre-game and nailed it perfectly in game. And the New England Patriots went on to lose that game 17-14. And again, the New York Patriots had the chance to become the first ever undefeated team in a 16-game regular season to win the Super Bowl. But instead, the New York Giants became the first ever wildcard team to win the Super Bowl and perhaps have the biggest upset in sporting history. So for me, as much as it pains me to say, and I hope I've sold it to you all, but that's the biggest underdog story in sporting history.
So I'm obviously not going to...
And I'll point out, and I'll just very quickly point out as well, like I said, I was doing an IT course college at the time. I'd stayed up at college next day. I was doing an IT course. You're not active. You sat at a desk doing shit on the computer. And I was absolutely fucking fucked. So was it worth it? Maybe not, but it would have been if it had pulled off. But I got to witness it live. So
of course, I'm not going to disagree or argue with you because, it's the Giants winning the Super Bowl, right? It's the 3rd Lombardi trophy in the cabinet and maybe the last one I'll ever see us get. But I look back at that and think, what an amazing thing, what an amazing time. I didn't watch the actual game live, but I saw the highlights of it. And like you, I was really bought into it on the build-up. Patriots perfect season, Patriots perfect season. It's all you heard about. Tom Brady, Patriots perfect season. The Giants have got no chance. And the reason that I'm not going to disagree with you is because I love an underdog. I love an underdog, which is why I'm really happy that you've said us. However, the build-up to that game made me think, no, I want the Giants to win. And then the Giants won. And then because the Giants won, I started taking an active interest in the NFL and therefore was a Giants fan. So I've got very, very mixed reviews and responses to that because, yes, I'm extremely happy that it happened. And actually, even though I didn't see us lift the Super Bowl, I saw us lift the one after where we beat you again.
Yeah. 3 years later.
I am now actually stuck being a Giants fan forever because of that moment. So through gritted teeth, amazing, great moment. But it has now doomed me to a lifetime of sadness. So I sort of agree, but sort of not.
It was a Super Bowl win with strings attached.
It certainly was
most strings attached ever in the history of the Super Bowl.
Definitely. Any questions, lads? Have I sold it enough for you?
No, none from me, mate. None from me. I'm all in. I'm just going to delete mine now because I think.
Well, next up is. Go on, Aggy. Sorry.
No, you sold it well for me, and that was before I started watching the NFL. So it's good to hear a story that was good from back then as well. Sam, we'll come across to you next for yours then.
Yes, mate. So there was once a guy, as Chris Collins would say. Now here's a guy. He went undrafted. I'm going to go for one particular person, not a team. His name was Kurt Warner, right? And I'm going to have to get my phone in, so I'm not going to be able to look at the camera. I do apologize. I made a couple of notes. So he went undrafted. He got up and he watched the drafts from his sofa with his family, and he sat there and watched himself go undrafted. Didn't become a college starter until his fifth and final year in college. So he weren't even looked at as a footballer until his final year. As I say, went undrafted. And then funnily enough, he went and had a tryout with my boys, the Green Bay Packers, during the time of the Brett Favre era. And I think I've seen a picture of the quarterback room at that year, and it was unbelievable. Like Brett Favre, Kurt Warner, and someone else. And it's just an unbelievable picture. But the Packers... The Packers didn't want him. The Packers didn't want him. They thought he had a bit of an attitude. I think if you've ever watched the Underdog film that was made about his life, it was a bit of a misunderstanding, and essentially he wasn't willing to run a particular play, and for that reason, that the Packers said, "Well, you're only a trialee, you're gone." So they booted him out. So he kind of fumbled around in the, or as I could say, he had a play around in the old. In the old Arena Football League. So the Arena Football, not Canadian League or anything like that, Arena Football, which is just like a five-a-side team, essentially. It's really stripped down, really small pitch. I think you only play 50 yards, I think. And it's just constantly bang, bang play. And it played that for 2 years for the Ohio Barnstormers, just an FYI. Before, it got scouted by the St. Louis Rams in 1997. So he's gone undrafted, he's bouncing around. 97, the Rams scout has spotted him playing arena football, and they think, hang on a minute, I think we've got a bit of a guy here. So the Rams signed him in, obviously, 1998. He was the Rams backup in 98, and Trent Green was the Rams QB. And he sat on the bench, Kurt Warner did, and watched the Rams go to a 4-12 season that year. So they was shit, really. They were really shit. In the preseason of 1999, Trent Green went down with an injury. And from that moment on, the Rams never looked back. Kurt Warner stepped in. And in the same season, so essentially his rookie year in the NFL, bear in mind it's not rookie because he's already left college, he's bounced around. So I think he was about 27, 28 at the time. So he was quite old when he made his first appearance in the NFL. First year, he went in and he led the Rams to a Super Bowl appearance. He won the league MVP, and they ended up winning the Super Bowl that year as well over the Tennessee Titans, 23-16, and he was the Super Bowl MVP as well. MVP, and that was famously known as the greatest show on turf, and that was his first season in the league after bouncing around, not going drafted or anything like that. So for me, I mean, what you couldn't, if you was going to make a film about any kind of sports, it's that in it. He has got the perfect film sports lifestyle, going undrafted in the league. And yeah, signing by the Rams that year, wins the league MVP, wins the Super Bowl and the Super Bowl MVP, all inside this first year in the NFL. So yeah, for me, that is the greatest underdog story in sports.
I think you went on to win the Super Bowl again in, what was it, 2008, was it?
Yeah.
He won the Super Bowl again?
No, I don't know if it was 2008. I didn't look at his stats afterwards, but he might have won it twice. But I think he went to the Cardinals in 2008, weren't he?
Yeah,
Did he win
Steelers beat them in 2008. It was that Santonio Holmes catch.
Yeah.
He might have won it twice.
Right.
I'm not sure if
No,
it was.
I'm just looking now. No, he's only won it once. He won
Yeah.
that.
I
Obviously,
thought
that's what you mentioned there, but
he took the Cardinals to a Super Bowl back around 08. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, what a story! I'm going to cut my bit out because I think you've topped it. I've not actually watched that film. Obviously, saw the trailers coming out, and you're absolutely right. I know you could write it because you have, but you couldn't write if that career that happened and you wanted to write that underdog story, it probably wouldn't have been as good of what actually happened with his career. But what's the film like? Is it worth a watch?
I really enjoyed it. I actually
what's
watched
it called again? Sorry,
it's something like
I'll look it up if you don't know.
Kate Warner, an underdog story, or something. Or yes, an underdog story, or American underdog story. I think something like that.
American Underdog.
American Underdog, yeah. So it's really decent film, to be fair. I actually watched it on a flight to America. Funnily enough, I think I was going to. It was either LA or Florida, one of them at the time, and I didn't have much to do, so I thought I'd stick that on. And it was brilliant, really good film.
I like it. Very rags to riches.
That's the one. It's
literally that, isn't it?
Absolutely. Kemp, we'll move along onto yours. Then have you gone for a team like Skin, or have you gone for a player?
I have gone for a team, and not only have I gone for a team, but I have gone for a team that were 5,000 to 1 to win their respective sporting league. And it is, of course, the 2015-16 Premier League champions, Leicester City. I never, ever thought I would see anything like that happen. Until it happened, I didn't believe it was going to happen. And I think everybody else was the same. Dawson, I remember it so clearly. We were together when Leicester City won the Premier League. We were out for a meal randomly somewhere.
With Dog, we were like Mansfield, mate. Just a really random Monday night, Chelsea versus
really
Tottenham.
Really weird. But we saw the Chelsea versus Tottenham score come in. Tottenham didn't get the result that they needed to keep the pressure on Leicester, and Claudio Ranieri's dreams came true, and Leicester City's dreams came true in that Premier League season. For me, I don't think, personally, from what I've ever seen, I don't think that can ever be topped. You're looking at a team where the season before, they just avoided relegation. They brought Claudio Ranieri in to help them avoid relegation again. That's why they brought him in, the Tin Command. They didn't bring him in to win anything. They were never going to win anything. And then you've got players like Wes Morgan, Robert Huth, Jamie Vardy, Riyad Mahrez, N'Golo Kante. Players now that you look back and think, fuck, they're legends. But at that point in time, Jamie Vardy had not recently since signed from Fleetwood. N'Golo Kante had signed from a team in France, Le Havre or something like that nobody even knew his name. Wes Morgan and Robert Huth, journeyman at that point. You know, nobody ever expected anything to happen, but it was the perfect storm, the perfect manager, the perfect team at that particular time. And they beat Man City, Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal, Spurs. They beat all these teams and became Premier League champions in that season. I don't think we'll ever see that happen again. And for me, I think that is the most special, most valuable, and it's the best underdog story in the history of sport.
I think Vardy even went on that season to break the Premier League's scoring record, didn't he? Consecutive goals previously held by Ruud van Nistelrooy United. And ironically, it was against United that he actually broke the record. And I always remember that. Unbelievable.
I mean, can you 5,000 to 1? Can you believe it?
No,
you'll never see. You look now when Luton this season went 5,000 to 1. Like it's never been offered again.
Well, the reason that I put £5 on Sheffield United to win the Premier League every time we're in it is for that exact reason with Leicester City. But even this season, when I put $5 on it, I got 2,500 to 1, so half the odds of what Leicester got when they won it, Dawson. But I mean, can that ever be topped? For me, that's bigger than any underdog story ever.
I think, Aggy, it's your question, mate, and we've got your answer to come. But so far, I think it's hard to argue with any of the answers and the reasons behind them.
No, I think there's 3 very strong answers, so I'm almost ready for apologising for the one that I'm about to give you, and that is I'm going to stick with the theme of football like Kemp and
Max Verstappen winning the F1 champion.
Whilst it was tempting, I'm going to go with Greece walking away as 2004 European champions. In their group stage, there was with Russia. I think France was in there as well. No, France was in ours, sorry. Portugal was the other one in theirs. And they went 4 points out of their opening 3 games, only just made it through the group stages. Then they got given France in the quarterfinals, beat them by 1-0. then beat Czech Republic in the semi-finals, and then beat Portugal by a 0-0. And nobody expected, I mean, when we made it through that group stage with France, we thought we'd be meeting France in the final. It was a given. You look at the sides that were in the quarterfinals at that point. There was Portugal, England, Sweden, the Netherlands, France, Greece, Czech Republic, and Denmark. So it's kind of a written there. You look at that.
Just to add to that, Spain were the other team in Greece's group. It was Greece, Portugal, Spain, and Russia.
That's the one, yeah. And Russia was the one they lost to as well in that group stage. I think they drew with Spain and beat Portugal as well. So, yeah, when you look at those knockouts, you think it's going to be England against France in the final. It's kind of like a foregone conclusion. In 2004, France were at their peak as well. Obviously, England would got a very strong side at that point. And no, both went out in the quarterfinals to the eventual finalists, where Portugal would take on Greece, and Greece would walk out 1-0 winners and win the European Championships against everybody's expectations. So I've gone with Greece winning that as my underdog story. It's not kind of as elaborate. I'm not going to be able to tell a full story like Skin did or defy 5,000 to 1 odds or talk about being undrafted, but they went on and upset a lot of people and managed to walk away with a trophy at the end of it, a European Championship more than I've seen England win.
Speaks for itself, mate. Speaks for itself. You look at the teams like Germany were a force in the sort of mid to late 2000s. Spain were the ultimate force in the mid to late 2000s. England, the golden generation that never lived up to the hype. Portugal with legendary players like Figo and Ronaldo, obviously on his way into the side in 2004. Legendary players across the board at that time, and players that we know from growing up in that time. I'd say that we all grew up predominantly in the 2000s. And Greece, lowly old Greece, that I'd be struggling to name one of their players.
Aristeas and Giorgio Samaras.
I knew you would.
Why is that, mate? Why is that?
Never a question that you would, but again, what an underdog story it was, and you can't disagree with that, Aggy. So I think we've all given pretty good answers there, to be fair.
Well, I think the reason for that, I was just thinking then, sitting here thinking, Sam, you had an individual as an underdog. I had an NFL underdog. Kemp, you had a domestic football underdog, and Aggy had an international football underdog. So I think we can all claim to, hold the title
melting pot.
Yeah, nobody's clashing, and I think we can all make a claim for those quite rightly being fantastic underdog stories. So, Aggy, great question there, mate. Really enjoyed that. But we are now on to the penultimate question of the episode, and it's me. So, lads, probably don't need to spend too much time on this, just a little bit of reasons as to why. And it is, I want one current and one historical offensive player and one historical and one current defensive player in the NFL to join your team. So obviously who they are and why you want them in your teams and why you think that they'll take you to the next level or whatever it may be. And I'm going to come to Mr. Thomas Kemp to start us off, because you are... I'm going to scratch that. I was about to say you've probably supporting the lowest of our teams at the minute and then remembered Patriots' shocking season, but maybe that'll be next week's question. What the fuck's going on at the New England Patriots? But anyway, we've started, so we'll carry on. So, Kemp, New York Giants, you said there, a great win, a great underdog story. You got to see them win it again, a little bit more invested a few years later, but since then it's been a tough time to be a New York Giants fan. Obviously, some hope last season bringing in Daboll and what he's done to the team, but not the best start this season. So a current player, a historical player on the offensive side, a current player and a historical player on the defensive side. Which four players are you bringing in to get New York Giants back to where they belong?
And I think that's why it hurts me so much, because of that hope that I had last season. We made it to the playoffs. We won in wildcard weekend. We won a playoff game last season. I never thought it had happened. And then this season we've started ridiculously poorly. I thought we'd be building on last season. And unfortunately it's gone the other way. And I can't for the life of me understand why. However, I know for a fact that if we brought these four players into the New York Giants team, we would rocket up those standings. And I'm sure we would be close to potentially making a Super Bowl as well. So I'll start with the offensive side of the ball, if that's all right with you boys. And I'm going to say the potential greatest quarterback of all time, taking over from maybe a Thomas Edward Patrick Brady or whatever his name is, a Patrick Mahomes would be my current offensive player I would bring into the New York Giants. Listen, Daniel Jones, for the amount of jokes I make about him being the GOAT, he's very limited. Even last season when we made the playoffs and won in the playoffs, you could still see that Daniel Jones is very limited. And to be fair, this season so far, he's been so exposed, it's unbelievable. I think if things don't drastically turn around this season, I think we need to move on from him. We've just offered him a big contract and we've just secured his future for a few years. But for me, I think we take the hit and we need to move on because the start that he's made has been extremely poor. So for me, the quarterback is the most important position on the field. And that's why Patrick Mahomes would be taking the Giants jersey up, switching his Kansas red for Giants blue, and he would be the starting quarterback for the New York Giants. Obviously, you need somebody who can catch the ball if somebody's going to throw the ball at the same time. And I have gone for possibly the most legendary wide receiver of all time, and that's Jerry Rice. I mean, what else can you say? Imagine Mahomes throwing to Jerry Rice. The amount of yardage that those boys have put up together would be just literally ridiculous. And I think our receiving core at the minute, I thought it was going to be quite strong at the start of the season. It's turned out to be quite weak, which is fairly disappointing. But you know what? I think with Jerry Rice and Patrick Mahomes, I think that would be a pretty deadly 1-2 combo. And I think we'd get a lot of points on the board if we had that 1-2 combo in offense. For defense, it kills me to say, but I would take a Dallas Cowboys player from the current roster of things. And Mike Parsons would be my choice to add to the Giants defense in that ridiculous linebacker / defensive tackle role that he does. He's just everywhere. He's all over the place. He's a nightmare for quarterbacks across the league at the moment. He started unbelievably well. And if you're playing against the Cowboys, be very afraid because Parsons will be on your ass straight away. And I couldn't talk about a historic defensive player and bringing one of those players back to the NFL and back to the New York Giants, the greatest player on the defensive side of the ball in the history of football, and I will not hear otherwise. Lawrence Taylor, LT, would be coming back and playing for my beloved New York Giants, putting back the blue jersey on, and I'm sure with him and Parsons in the Giants defense, quarterbacks all over the country would shit themselves when they saw those two suited up. So, LT's coming back, Parsons is coming back, and Mahomes, coming to the Giants, and Mahomes and Jerry Rice are suiting up for the Giants as well, and I'm sure our fate would improve very, very quickly if that did happen.
Sam, you had a little bit of a Genev when he announced Patrick Mahomes as the current player joining the New York Giants. Is he not enough, or have you changed your mind slightly with the three other players that followed?
What do you mean? What on his question?
Yeah, so you were like, you weren't too sure about Patrick Mahomes.
No. That's not what I was doing. I was doing in potentially hailing him as a potential GOAT. That's what I was. That's what I was doing. I wasn't doing as the selection at all. But it's
conversation point for next week, maybe. Conversation point for next week.
Maybe so. But no, I've got no qualms with his selection. Would you like me to roll on, seeing as I'm the one talking?
Yeah, go for it, mate. Let's see for who are joining the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, so for the Green Bay Packers, I've cheated on the first one, so straight away I'm bringing back my boy Aaron Rodgers. Now I know,
that's fine, mate. That's fine.
I know you said it's current, but I'm going for a prime Aaron Rodgers. So I'm going back.
Right. Let me just point out that all the players that you bring will be in their prime,
in their peak.
They have to currently be playing in the NFL, not their current state or ability.
Perfect. Yeah, that's perfect then. So Aaron Rodgers goes in at the quarterback. Sorry, love, I love you, bro, but you're nothing compared to the big dog. So, Aaron Rodgers comes in at quarterback. We know what he can do. We know.
Give him a bit of fucking time, Sam. Jesus Christ.
It doesn't matter, mate. If I'm wanting instant success, Rodgers is going straight back in. So, Rodgers is back in his prime. And as Kemp, I've gone the same avenue as Kemp as well. He's going to need someone to catch the ball. I'm not going to go into details about Rodgers because we know what his history is with Green Bay. And I've gone for Calvin Johnson, aka Megatron, for him to catch the ball. So I think probably the most talented, physical wide receiver there's ever been. I know Jerry Rice is known as a bit of the GOAT wide receiver, but Calvin Johnson is physics. What was it, like fucking 6'9" or something like that, and they were like
6'5", rapid as fuck.
6'5", run like a 440 or something stupid like that. It was just unbelievable statistics. And Calvin Johnson and Aaron Rodgers. Can you just imagine that pairing? Obviously, there was in the NFC North going at it a couple of years when he was at the Lions, but to have him catching balls from Rodgers would have just been something to behold, I think.
You know my love of Megatron.
I do. I knew you'd respect that one.
That would have been phenomenal to see. Rodgers would have had such a good time having him out there on out on the sticks, throwing it deep to him.
100%. And then on the defensive side of the ball, I've gone quite practical this time. Obviously, I've gone quite fantasy in the offense, but this time I've gone, what do we need? What don't we need? So I think we've got probably one of the best corners in the game when Jair Alexander, pair him with Russell Douglas or Stokes, and it's a decent room at cornerback. Safety, I did hum and ah about getting some kind of Rodney Harrison, legendary safety in, or
Troy
anyone like
Polamalu,
anyone like that in. Yeah. Ed Reed would have probably been the pick, I would say, to be fair. But no, I've gone up front because we are historically shit against the run. So I had to tell Aggy to fuck off of this pick because I was taking Aaron Donald in that defensive tackle slot for that exact reason. That is what we need at Green Bay. We need a defensive tackle who's nasty, horrible to play against. He's only about 6 foot, but he is one of the greatest defensive players of all time, and he probably could rival Lawrence Taylor for that with the amount of impact he's had on the league.
That right there is the reason why it's good to have everyone on screen now, because that's what we were missing before.
Mate, honestly, Kemp, I know you're quarrying that, but you look at his stats. I mean, he's got how many times he's won the Defensive Player of the Year. He's got the Super Bowl to back it up. He's made the Pro Bowl and All Pro like every single season he's been in the league. Essentially,
he's searching.
So Aaron Donald for me is going to, when it's all said and done, is going to rival them.
I'm not doubting the Aaron Donald stats. I'm not doubting those whatsoever. I'm really, really not. But I'm not.
That's fine, mate. Mate, I'll stand by that one. I'll die on that hill. Definitely, he's right up there in terms of talent for him, especially for the fact that he's undersized at the position as well. And finally, I have gone for my historic player, and I think it's another pick that Dawson's going to absolutely love here. It's Luke Kuechly, middle linebacker for the Carolina Panthers. Unbelievable.
That close, mate. That close to being on my list. And I was like, I know what I need.
Yeah, unbelievable. Sorry. Again, same logic of approach. I think, we don't need players here and there. I was going to think pass rush, and again, we've got Aaron Donald in, so we've got Rashawn Gary, Preston Smith, obviously got Lucas Van Ness that we've just signed. So I think pass rush were okay. Otherwise, I would have picked Reggie White. He was there, or thereabouts. And for me, Reggie White is the greatest defensive player of all time, the Minister of Defence. It was fucking outstanding, and I'm going to be wearing my green tinted glasses on that, but it was outstanding back in the 90s, and one of the reasons why Brett Favre won a Super Bowl. But yeah, Luke Kuechly is the pick I've gone for, middle linebacker. Historically, again, we've never had great middle linebackers. I always cast my mind back to AJ Hawk as probably the last decent middle linebacker we've had. We had Blake Martinez, who went to the Giants, just shit after shit we've really had. Seems like we've got a decent pairing at the minute with Devondre Campbell and Quay Walker, but I think to get that absolute pedigree in the middle, and again, he's only going to help shut down that run as well. So Dorrand and Kuechly, I think, to help shore up Green Bay's run defense, and I think the cornerbacks can take care of the pass. So that would be my picks for the Green Bay Packers.
That's fair. Aggie, I'm going to come to you next. I was going to go next, but with what Sam said there, we know you're a Seattle Seahawks fan, and probably their biggest sort of hype name or best apart, whatever it is, it was the Legion of Boom, that defensive back room that you had many years ago. So Sam's very comfortable with the cornerbacks they've got at the minute. And I suppose, to be fair, Seattle on paper have got still a very, very good defensive back room. But are you going practical like Sam with your picks, or are you going fantasy and heart like some of Kemp's earlier?
I've been completely practical. I've looked at exactly what we've needed, and I've gone based upon that.
Of course,
why did I ask? What stupid fucking question from me?
Terrible question.
Sorry, lads.
Kemp said to me over the weekend when we were watching Red Zone as well, or watching the Seahawks against the Bengals, that Geno Smith is not the guy to lead us into a Super Bowl. We've got a very young side at the moment, a very promising side for the future, but we need a quarterback for that. So I'm going to start things off by going with Joe Burrow, the current quarterback of the Cincinnati Bengals. I think with the play style that we have at the moment, play actions, that kind of thing, he'll be very good for it, and he'll be utilized very well with Pete Carroll's offense. I've then gone for a running back as my legendary player to bring back to the Seahawks. And I think as much as we speak about Kenneth Walker and the fact that he is a very good elusive back, we need somebody who is a power back. And who better than, of course, beast mode himself, Marshawn Lynch. I'm disappointed I didn't get to see him in the first time round. I saw him when he returned to us shortly after Chris Carson went out injured. But all I've heard from you guys is that Marshawn Lynch was an absolute beast. He was a force to be reckoned with when he was with us the first time. Beast. From all the clips I've seen when we had him the first time around, it was very promising. So I think him and Kenneth Walker would make a very good 1-2 duo. I looked where else we'd really need, and other than, of course, on the O-line, it'd be very tough to go with something.
Yeah.
On the defense, I've gone straight onto the defensive line with a current player. I did look at Aaron Donald, like Sam mentioned, but I've stuck within the NFC West, and I've gone with Nick Bosa, a guy who is very calm, very relaxed, away from the line of scrimmage, but as soon as he's on the line of scrimmage, you don't want to be opposite him. I did have him down as the sack leader come the end of this season, and he's in a very good position to maybe compete with that. I did have him actually, I think, to break the sack record come the end of the season as well. So hopefully that will still ring true. But I think Nick Bosa, and we do struggle in the trenches, so I think on the defensive line, it'll be a great player to have. As for cornerbacks, you have just mentioned that we've got a very young cornerback setup. We do, you're absolutely right. We've got both Devin Witherspoon and Tariq Woolen, two very young cornerbacks. So who better to go alongside them than a cornerback, and possibly the biggest talker that I've ever seen in the NFL. And I'm going with the experience of Richard Sherman, of course, from the days of the Legion of Boom, winning the Super Bowl with the Seahawks as well. Imagine Devin Witherspoon and Tariq Woolen being coached and helped through it by Richard Sherman. And of course, he can still, like you say, he'll be in his prime. So imagine a prime Richard Sherman adding to that as well. So yeah, that's my defensive players.
I think the only thing I can say, and the biggest, sorry, before you do, Dawson, go. Biggest compliment I can say about Marshawn Lynch, mate, is that if Pete Carroll had not been a donkey and decided to pass, your Seahawks would have had another Super Bowl ring, mate, because those Patriots weren't fucking stopping him.
The dynasty was there. The dynasty was ready.
I'm jumping in here because obviously being a Patriots fan, I watched the Super Bowl. Remember, I was on an Xbox party with Sam.
Yeah.
Tommy in a basket next to me who was 2 days old. Watching the Super Bowl. And if you go back, the play before, Marshawn Lynch had the ball in a very similar position, and Dante Hightower made a phenomenal goal line challenge. So let's not guarantee.
He can do it again. Could you imagine, like in the future, if like you can, like in VR, you can set things up and like probabilities, and you can do it again. Yeah, I forgot about there. How could I forgot about there?
That's your favourite bit with the VR.
That's it's number one ranked. Number one. What's he doing? What's he fucking doing? And Dawson, carry on. I'm
just saying, I always like to chuck that out there when people give Pete Carroll shit, because he did hand Marshawn Lynch the ball and he did get stopped. So who's to say? It would, again, we'll never know, but I just want to put that out there. It's a question for Sam, actually, just because obviously you commented on Aggy being practical, because of course he is. Of course that's what he's doing. But he mentioned there Witherspoon, Tariq Woolen, obviously Jamal Adams at safety as well. Is Richard Sherman really a practical pick, or should he be focusing on other areas of that defense?
Not a practical pick in the slightest, but he is one of the goats at the position, so I can forgive it. He was dominant, he was physical, it was unbelievable. I believe Aggy caught him probably towards the back end of his career, really.
Last year with us, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in his prime, it was absolutely outstanding. And I always picture, when I always think of Richard Sherman, there's always one play that always jumps out to me, and it's the Michael Crabtree play, where he's in the NFC Championship game, San Fran, and his last throw of the dice, ball's gone in the corner of the end zone, he's batted it away, and I think he tipped it. Yeah, he tipped it, and then Earl Thomas picked it, I think.
Yeah, I'm sure it was
in the end zone. It was Earl Thomas.
Yeah, and then he's gone up to the camera and he's grabbed his gold chain off him, and he said, "Don't ever put a guy like that on me ever again." Oh. And it just went off. It went off after the game, and so it's not as practical. They've got options there that they'd have been okay with. I think if you'd have brought an Earl Thomas back or someone like that, maybe. But yeah, no, I think he's a hell of a corner, and I can't forgive it.
He got sponsorship off the back of that interview as well that he did afterwards when he was marking Crabtree in that game. He got loads of sponsorship deals off the back of it as well.
For me, and this might be controversial, Aggy might disagree with it, I think if Richard Sherman doesn't play for the Seahawks, you don't pick him in that pick there. I think that's 100%. Purely based on the fact that he was a Seahawks player.
All I'm going to say on the back of that is you're absolutely right, but I only got to see 1 year of Richard Sherman, and the reason why I've seen more of Richard Sherman is because I'm a Seahawks fan. So you're absolutely right. Had I not seen any more of him, then Yeah,
any player in the history of the NFL at defense, and you've gone Sherman. I think that's probably the bold statement there. I think it's not really needed in the fact that you've got a decent cornerback room as it is. But as I say, you could have gone someone like maybe an outside linebacker, pass rusher, or someone like that. I think that might have been the way to go.
Maybe so. I went with Bosa, didn't I?
Yeah, you do whatever you want, mate. You crack on, you silly cunt.
No issue with it, other than him opening up his answer with he's not gone with his heart, he's gone fully practical. That's my only gripe with it.
I think other than Sherman, my answers were really practical.
Yeah, I know, but what sort of stats? No, but my question is, what sort of stats did he do when he were at elementary school?
Yeah.
That's my question. When he was 13, what were he doing? How many picks did he have? Because usually that's how you judge players, Aggy. So, what
no, mate, just Michael Owen. Just Michael Owen.
And Paul Scholes. Anyway, right, I'll give you my answer, and I'm going to flip it. I'm going to whip my way defense, and then at the end, because why not?
I wonder who's going for offense. I'm not 100% sure.
I don't know.
Hang on, lads. I'll be back in a minute. Hang on.
The dog barking.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. I just don't want to fucking hear it.
All right. Well, we'll get to that very shortly. So my current defensive player, we look at the Patriots. I mentioned earlier, really, really struggling, and what they're missing. They're missing that passing pressure or that defensive pressure off the edge. So I want to put Myles Garrett in there. Similar to what you said about Nick Bosa in terms of what he brings to the table. He's phenomenally strong. He's quick. He's got double coverage on him on most plays because he's just such a disruptive player. And I think he'll really suit what Patriots are lacking at the moment. In terms of historical player, Luke Kuechly. I'll be honest, Sam, up until about Monday evening, he was in there, but then I saw a clip from ESPN coverage off the back of the Patriots game. Teddy Bruschi was on the panel, and they were asking about the future of Bill Belichick, and he gave a very impassioned answer about what he thought he should do with, wind it down and move away and walk away from the Patriots and let them sort of fly free at the end of this season and get back to where they need to be. And he was a phenomenal player. He was a leader. He was that rock in the middle of defense, middle linebacker during those sort of wonder years. We're really missing that leader in the middle of the park at the moment. He had a stroke in his career and then came back after a stroke and still did what he did and won Super Bowls and everything else like that. So again, if we're talking about what the Patriots need on the defensive side, they need that pass rush. Garrett will provide that, and they also need that leadership and that calmness and focus and drive, and Teddy Bruschi certainly brings that. So they're my they're my defensive players. On the offensive side, my current player is a player that Sam, you'll probably remember more than anyone here, that I was hyping back in college. Saw him as a phenomenal player and for me was the perfect Patriots pick. Unfortunately, this was at a time when the Patriots were good, and don't think they ever picked lower than sort of 25, so they didn't really have a chance of getting him. But it is Christian McCaffrey, and nobody's asking, I don't know if you've noticed, but I am actually tonight wearing his college jersey. Pac-12 was the conference, Stanford was the team, McCaffrey 5 on the back, because I thought it'd be quite relevant. But yeah, Brady really utilised those pass receiving running backs throughout his career. Players that were never amazing, but Danny Woodhead did really, really well with. Rex Burkhead was, very strong in the Patriots because of his ability to take on passes.
James White,
of course, yeah, a big favourite with yourself after that Falcons Super Bowl. But yeah, if there ever was in my time as a Patriots fan, the perfect Patriots player, or the player that perfectly fitted the Patriots system, CMC was it. And I'm glad that he's gone on to sort of live up to the hype that I gave him pre-draft in his college days. Obviously he got drafted by the Panthers, now absolutely dominating at the 49ers. But yeah, that would be my current player. And of course my historical player, I'm not going to get into it too much, but very much like Sam, why would I not want Tom Brady back at Gillette Stadium for the New England Patriots? But let's not get into it now, because I'll blow my load too early, and that doesn't normally happen, so why should I start now?
I was just gonna say, fucking hell. I know we joke about it. You're talking about Brady all the time, and I think it would be quite therapeutic if sometimes you did let him go a little bit. But now is the time, mate, to talk about him and wax lyrical. So if you do want to wax lyrical and talk about Thomas Brady, then feel free, mate. This is an open forum to do so.
No, mate, and I'm going to save it for reasons that will become very, very, very clear.
You can just look out window. I can see them clouds coming over. They're coming. They're coming.
The rain is about to fall. But Kemp, final question of the week, mate. Ask away and dictate what order you would like to go in.
Wow, well, this may be the biggest question that you could possibly ask when it comes to sport, right? And the question is, who is the greatest sportsperson of all time in any sport? So in terms of accomplishments, in terms of what they've done, in terms of maybe coming from nothing to being something like a Kurt Warner story or something like that, maybe it could be something like that. But in your opinion, it's the biggest overarching question that everybody wants to know. We're going to tell them right now on Loaded Sport. Who is the greatest sports person of any sport of all time? And Aggy, we'll start with you.
I am going to go with Ronnie O'Sullivan, the Rocket, in snooker. He spent between the years of 2002 and 2010 more weeks at number one ranking than he did at any other position. He recently went back to number one again in April of 2022, and he is still the world number one as it stands at the moment. He hit 15 147s so far in his career. On 1,218 occasions, he's hit a break that is over 100. He has won the World Championship 7 times in total, and he's won 39 total tournaments in his career. I think he's an outstanding performer in snooker, and I think that he deserves the recognition for that. So for me, Ronnie O'Sullivan is the greatest sports person.
Yeah, and that's fair enough. And to be fair, I know Dawson will disagree with me, but being raised in Sheffield, let's say that. Dawson, can I say that? Am I right to say that? Ronnie O'Sullivan, mate. Obviously, is a massive figure in Sheffield, with obviously the World Darts Championship being hosted at the Crucible every single year. And actually, there's a hotel across from the Crucible. It's the Mercure Hotel in Sheffield. And on the wall, they've got one of the actual, I don't know, tops of the snooker table. And it's cloth. The actual cloth, there you go. And it's the actual cloth of the snooker table that Ronnie O'Sullivan hit a 147 on. And on the actual cloth, you can see every single shot that he made, every single ball where it was, and it's the actual cloth, and it's like a piece of art in the Mercure Hotel across the road from the Crucible, and it's unbelievable to look at it. You think, how the fuck is that humanly possible? And like you say there, Ag, he did it numerous times. So the Rocket is absolutely fine with me. Sam, let's go with you next.
Yeah, I've really struggled with this question. I must admit, I kept thinking of many different men and women. I even went to Serena Williams at one point. I was really to-ing and fro-ing, and eventually I just thought, what the fuck am I thinking? There's only one greatest of all time, and it's Cassius Clay. It's Muhammad Ali. It has to be the greatest sports person of all time. It might sound like the cookie cutter answer, the bread and butter answer, but he just is the greatest sports person of all time. Charismatic, had the chin, he could dance in the ring. It was just unbelievable.
That was such a David Brent answer, that was. That's Aggy, right? You didn't go championships, you didn't go big wins, you went he can dance before any of that.
So I did add in the ring. I mean,
it's a shame Strictly Come Dancing didn't exist in 70s, isn't it? Because Muhammad Ali would have won it easily.
It was metaphorical for his boxing. It wasn't literal that he could dance, for fuck's sake.
Oh dear. Silver tongue devil.
Yeah, but one of the main reasons why I've gone for this is something that I don't think many people know too much about. This is the fact that, as they say, I'm a fighting man, and he was a fighting champion.
That's a very good John Fury impression, by the way. It's excellent John Fury impression.
Got it down to a T. So it was the fact that there's a fighting champion, and I was reading about it as I was thinking about my answer, and they were saying that to put it into perspective, that over a span of 5 years between 1970 to 1975, he answered the bell 22 times to defend his belts, and then to put that into perspective, Vladimir Klitschko, who was widely considered one of the best heavyweight boxers that there's ever been, for defending his belts, he only answered the belt 12 times, and Floyd Mayweather 9. So that just puts into perspective how much he was willing to step up every single time. Never really said no. He just wanted to keep the belts, and I think that's quite prevalent for this day and age, especially when you've got folk that are just dodging each other left, right, and centre in that heavyweight division. So, yeah, that is one of the reasons. Obviously, you've got the fact that outside of the ring, it was so enigmatic, so bright and charismatic, and he actually refused to the sign up to Vietnam as well, which obviously quite famous. I know many people know that, and for that reason, it wasn't allowed to box in the USA for, I think it was about 3 years, as he said. So he ended up going to Manila, Rumble in the Jungle, and fighting all these different fighters, and making himself a bigger legend for it, I think, in the grand scheme of things. So I think the whole story of Cassius Clay is an unbelievable story. It was a man of principle, a man of honour, and he really stuck to his guns and fought the good fight, as they say. So, yeah. For me, Muhammad Ali is the greatest sportsman of all time.
Yeah, and not to disagree with you, just to add maybe a small correction from what you said. Again, I'm not disagreeing with you whatsoever. And Muhammad Ali called himself the greatest of all time, and who can disagree? He was actually banned from all of boxing. Not one person, not one state, not one country would sanction him to fight. The only fight that he had in the 3-year gap that he was banned between 1967 and 1970, Dawson. The only bout that he had, who was it against, Dawson?
Oh, fuck would I know?
It was Antonio Inoki. And it
was
wrestling.
It was. Yeah.
So fucking back in your box, dickhead.
Yeah, sorry. my
bad. But yeah, it was Antonio Inoki in like a wrestling, boxing hybrid exhibition. It was a very strange and grease palms match, but yeah, that did happen. Didn't obviously go on any records, but from then 1970 onwards, like you say there, Sam, he absolutely didn't look back. I think the only question and concern, and maybe asterisks over Muhammad Ali, is that he obviously went on too long. Towards the end, it started getting a little bit sad. But you know what? The greatest fighters of all time, do they ever know when they're really finished? Right?
No.
So that's the question. But yeah, like you say, with Muhammad Ali, he'd done wrestle with an alligator, he'd done tussle with a whale, he'd done handcuff lightning and thrown thunder in jail. He was a bad dude. Let's not beat around the bush. I will go next because I am going to give Dawson his big crowning glory, and then fingers crossed I never have to fucking hear it again. I am going to go with the record-breaking, the history-making, the 16-time champion
of the world,
Ric Flair!
Ric Flair won it 21 times, mate. That's just WWE that say 17, but there you go. It is Phil, Crackle of Thunder, the Power Taylor. For me, I think Phil Taylor is the greatest sports person of all time. And the reason that I say that, and Ag, you mentioned there about Ronnie O'Sullivan being a 7-time world champion. Phil the Power Taylor is a 16-time world champion. Now, for me, looking at that in an individual sports person, it's difficult to compare him to a team. But as an individual sports person, I don't know one other person in the world who's won as many titles, as many world championships as Phil the Power Taylor. And for me, that's the reason I've got him as the greatest of all time. Because how do we recognise greatness in individual sports? We recognise that in world titles, right? And for me, 16 world championships for Phil the Power Taylor. I struggle to find how you can get better than that. Not only did he win the World Championship for the WDF, which is basically what it was before the PDC in 1990 and 92. But then 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 2001, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry, not 3, but 2, 4, 5, 6, 9, 10, and 13. He was the PDC World Champion. He was a 16-time World Match Play Champion, an 11-time World Grand Prix Champion, a 5-time winner of the UK Open, a 6-time winner of the Grand Slam, 4-time winner of the European Championship, and a 6-time winner of the Premier League of Darts, as we've discussed on the podcast many times before. So for me, purely in terms of accomplishments and victories, the greatest sports person of all time is Phil the Power Taylor.
It's a quality answer.
Tell you what, for a 4-man band to have had a snooker player and a darts player complete 50% of the votes for greatest sports person is maybe controversial, but I think you've both done a phenomenal job of justifying the pick. So it's hard to sort of hard to budge on those really. Kemp, have I got the floor?
Unfortunately, you've got the floor.
Okay. And I won't take up too much of your time because I feel like I don't need to justify it as much. But my pick is a man that holds the following stats and accomplishments that Kemp mentioned there. The most career in the NFL this is, the most career quarterback wins, the most career passing attempts, the most career passing completions, the most career passing touchdowns, the most career passing yards, most pass completions in a season, as well as Let me just get it up. 2 times Sports Illustrated Sportsman of the Year, because we know that's important and it's very prestigious. AP Male Athlete of the Year.
Well, Phil Taylor were on cover of Playboy twice. So
Men's Health as well, weren't it, at some point?
And Gay Times.
That was me. Anyway, he also holds a place in the NFL 100th Anniversary All-Time Team, the NFL 2010s All-Decade Team, the NFL 2000s All-Decade Team. He was in 2007 the NFL completion percentage leader. He's a 2-time NFL passing rated leader. He's 4 times NFL passing yards leader. He's a 5-time NFL passing touchdowns leader. He's a 15-time Pro Bowl player. He's a 3-time second team All-Pro, a 3-time first team All-Pro. He won the NFL Comeback Player of the Year in 2009. He is a 2-time NFL Offensive Player of the Year. He is a 3-time NFL Most Valuable Player winner. He has won 5 Super Bowl MVPs and probably the most justifying pick, accomplishment, whatever you want to call it. But the New England Patriots and the Pittsburgh Steelers hold the record for teams with the most Super Bowl wins with 6 each. This player has won it 7 times. And I don't know in any sport, we talk about how we rank individual accomplishments in an individual game, but I do not know an individual that has won a team trophy or a team competition more times than any team in sporting history. And of course, this man is my sporting hero. He is the man that I have tattooed on my leg. He is the man that I named my son after, and that is Thomas Edward Brady. No,
is it?
Yeah, which is a surprise to absolutely nobody, I'm sure. But
why is there no Patrick in there? That's his full name.
You just got confused, didn't you? With
No, Thomas Edward Patrick Brady is his full name.
So
we're saying. So we're saying. I
don't want to talk about Patrick,
is that I know more.
Yeah.
About Tom Brady than you do.
Yeah. Absolutely, I agree. Sorry, I got confused with all the stats. My head was full. But not only is this a man that has won all that, which I don't think anyone can argue is absolutely phenomenal. But we go back to the underdog stories earlier. This man is not someone like a Trevor Lawrence or an Andrew Luck coming out of college who it was a guaranteed success, all the stuff that we see of players rated. He was the 199th pick in 2000 when he was drafted. He never really looked like he was going to be anything in the National League until Drew Bledsoe, the New England Patriots quarterback, took a big hit against the New York Jets, and Brady came on and it completely changed the course of his future and, of course, the New England Patriots as well. In his first full season, his second season in the National Football League, he took the Patriots on to win the Super Bowl in what is considered one of the biggest upsets in the NFL. They beat the St. Louis Rams, who were a phenomenal team at the time. Brady, in his second year, took them to the Super Bowl and won, and that is ranked up there, probably a top 5 underdog win in the NFL. And then, went on to do all those things that we spoke about. He's a bona fide Hall of Famer. He is the epitome of first ballot Hall of Famer. The New England Patriots have recently scrapped their 5-year grace period between retiring and inducting someone in the Hall of Fame and have putting him in there. I don't know what more I can say when we talk about greatest sportsperson. I know, Kemp, I bore you. I know you give me shit, but taking out all emotion and just black and white stats, I don't know what more I can say or how I could argue anyone else.
No, and to be fair, the arguments you've put forward are unbelievable. The amount of stats you gave us are absolutely fantastic. The historic nature of Tom Brady's run, not only with the Patriots, but going to the Buccaneers, who are on their arse, and winning the Super Bowl with them, taking them to a Lombardi trophy. It's one of the greatest careers that you've ever seen in the history of sport. But he was still owned twice by Eli Manning.
Good night.
Good night, everybody. So, I can't say anymore, really. I'm done justifying it. I'm done listening to the people that need to read a book. I'm done with it. I'm sticking with it.
Fair
you
enough,
do you, mate. You do you.
Enough.
Fair enough. Right, lads, episode 73. We're done and dusted, so let's go around the room. I want to know weekends. Kemp, you mentioned weekends earlier, so we'll save you to the end, mate. Aggy, you said that you had a weekend off, I believe. So what have you got planned if you're not doing your usual sporting commitments?
As it stands at this minute, I have absolutely nothing planned for Saturday and absolutely nothing planned for Sunday. I don't know why I'm emphasising it. When I say it normally, it sounds like that. But
they're two different.
Did sound any different, mate? Did sound any different?
Sound the exact same, and I'm trying to put emphasis
on it. Just repeated yourself.
Yeah. nothing planned, so just see what happens on Saturday, see how I feel Saturday morning, see how I feel Sunday morning, just enjoy having a bit of a break and having nothing to do, and enjoy, of course, Red Zone on Sunday. I'm going to try and hopefully break the duck and beat Kemp in our Loaded Sport Fantasy Football League. The only person in fact, I've beat Sam both times. I've beat you both times. Kemp's the only one that I've not actually managed to get a win against.
5-1, baby.
So.
Hold on.
Sorry. Everyone's beat Sam twice.
Oh, exactly. No one's taking credit about beating me this year because everyone's fucking beating me this year. So don't brag about
that. You
that.
Though, mate. You fucking ran me close this last weekend. I don't know.
I know. Fuming.
He held off. He was going to win, and then he made a late change to someone that wasn't playing because he wants that accolade of not winning the regular season game
and then winning the Super Bowl.
I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you all. Beware. Buyer beware.
He's going to start playing going into weeks with nobody in his team.
I'll start trying once it matters. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Enemies of the air, beware at Niall and Morley.
Absolutely. Aggy, you mentioned Red Zone there. Seahawks, I think, just off of a bye week. Who have they got this week?
We had the Bengals last week, but we've got the Arizona Cardinals this week. So I'm all in on our defense, on our kicker, and on our Tyler Lockett.
Well, you said that week 1 was an easy win against the Rams, and I'm assuming that it's an easy win against the Cardinals. In your mind, they lost to the Rams, so
mate, these are completely different. The Rams at least had something. The Cardinals
banana skin, mate. I think it's a bit of a banana skin, you know.
No.
Mate, I won't say they've got nothing. I mean, to be fair, we're fucking shit, but they were battering us for 3/4 of the game, so I wouldn't say they've got nothing.
Beat Cowboys, and Cowboys are a damn sight better than your boys. So I think this is a divisional game, mate. I think this is going to be a potential banana skin for you. You've heard it here first.
Okay, well, this time next week, when we're 3-3 and they've got another win on the board, we'll talk more about it.
Correct.
We certainly shall. That's Sam's question for next week. Semi-prepped, but we'll see.
My next question for next week, Adam. Who do you think you are?
Fuck me, that'll take up the whole episode, won't it? Sam, what you got planned for the weekend, mate?
So I'm trying to be a bit healthier. Obviously, going 5-a-side in last night felt fucking horrendous, bad and bruised, so unfit. Need to get that sorted out. And then we're going for an all-you-can-eat Chinese on Saturday. So what can you do? What can you do? You just you can't help it sometimes. But yeah, it'll be all-you-can-eat Chinese on the Saturday. But definitely going plenty of walks, probably beforehand and maybe even Sunday as well, just to make myself feel a little bit better for it. So yeah, probably a nice chilled weekend. To be fair, plenty of sports I'll be watching now that the domestic calendar has resumed, and then obviously Sunday the Packers are back, baby. 3 weeks absence being on Sunday. Denver 9:30 game. That'll be me, and I fully expect us to win that game, and if we do not win that game, we are in trouble this season.
Interesting. Well, absolutely. Get yourself comfy, watch Red Zone 6:00, and then get yourself prepped for a big game. So you mentioned last week about bye weeks and then late games and early games and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, I'm sure you're ready to get proper settled in for that 9:30 kickoff.
Absolutely.
Kempy, Manchester United are visiting Bramall Lane this weekend, mate. Are you going?
I'm not.
Wow.
I'm not going. And shall I tell you why?
Why?
Because at 7:00 on Saturday evening, an hour before Sheffield United kick off against Manchester United, UFC 294 emanates from the Emirates Arena in Abu Dhabi. And I can't miss it. I cannot miss it. I really can't miss it. It's Kamaru Usman versus Khamzat Chimaev in the co-main event, and Islam Makhachev against Alexander Volkanovski for the UFC Lightweight Championship in the main event of the evening. I was hoping, there's two things that have worked against me here. The time's been changed for Sky, for fuck's sake. And the UFC it's in the Middle East. So it's usually on at 3:00 in the morning. I'd have been fine to go to the game, not a problem. Because it's in the Middle East, the main event will be kicking off probably at about 9:30, 10 o'clock. I can't miss it. I cannot miss it.
That's surprised me. That has surprised me.
And I was to and fro-ing. I must admit, I was to and fro-ing.
I think you'll do them and all, by the way. I think you'll do them.
If we do, I'll be full of regret. But the plan is to watch the UFC on one screen and obviously on the football on the other screen. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we get good results across the board. So yeah, watching a bit of football. I might be playing a little bit of pitch and putt on Saturday. I don't think the weather's going to be fit for any other sort of golf, but I'll be playing a bit of pitch and putt on Saturday as well. Fights and football on Saturday night, so you can't argue with that. And then the NFC East clash on Sunday, with the Giants playing the Commanders at 6:00, and I'm sure a bit of shopping and a bit of Sunday dinner on Sunday as well. Ready for a big week of work ahead, and I'm hoping to get out on the bike as well, because last weekend I was robbed due to COVID-19. So I want to get myself back out on there on the bike and get that fitness back to where it needs to be, Dawson. What about you, mate?
I don't really know. Tomorrow, probably just a chilled one, just to set the weekend off right and close the week off. Been a hectic week, as I said at the start. Saturday, really no idea. I'm still 50-50 on whether to go to town Gateshead. I'm still on the fence, but I don't think I will. So it might be a pretty chilled Saturday. And then Sunday is kid-free for the first time in quite a while. So me and DG are going to see Killers of the Flower Moon. It is out tomorrow, and I cannot fucking wait. Big day tomorrow, big day Friday, peek behind the curtain. Spider-Man 2 out and Killers of the Flower Moon. What a day, by the way.
Huge.
Fucking hell, that's huge, isn't it?
Yeah.
I didn't realise Killers at Flower Moon were out yet. We might have to, me and the good lady might have to take a trip out for that, I think.
Yeah, it's out tomorrow, mate. So we've managed to manoeuvre a few things to get a bit of time to go and watch it. It's 3.5 hours, so you've got it's a big commitment in it. But can't wait for that. And then NFL on Sunday. Don't even know off the top of my head who the Patriots are playing. Bills 6 o'clock. That's why I didn't really think of it. Yeah, exactly. I put that to the back of my mind. So for that very reason. So I'll watch that at 6 o'clock. And
not
cry.
sure though, mate. They were lucky to beat us. To be fair,
It was.
Patriots against Bills ain't the 30-3 that Brady was against the Bills in his career, mate. It's a different kettle of fish these days. Mate,
you've had your fucking platform to speak about Brady. You don't mention him anymore.
Next week, tell me everything you love about Tom Brady. That's my question.
Yeah, I might be sick for that episode. COVID might come back with a vengeance if that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, there we go. But anyway, lads, this is the first ever time that we all get to say goodbye together. We're all on the screen. Hopefully, anyway, we've not seen, but future us on the screens all together. Say goodnight to our viewers, because our listeners, of course, can't see you, but we'll see you next week.
Bye!
Book Tom Brady.
Aggy, get belly out. Aggy, get belly out.
I'm all right, thanks.
Done.